sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. AMP2.tv presents Tell Us Your Business, where you're invited on the air to tell us what makes your business stand out in the community. It's important we hear from you to tell us all we need to know about what you do best. Tell Us Your Business uses the latest radio and television production systems, and all shows can be seen on AMP2.tv. If you have a question for our guest, call 888-565-1470. Now, let's get ready as our guest hits the airwaves and informs us about what we need to know on Tell Us Your Business.
Hi there. Welcome, everyone, to Tell Us Your Business. Today, we are Bahamas Strong here, coming to you from South Florida to talk a little bit about the situation in the Bahamas. And if you'd like to call in while we're here, we'd love to hear from you. The number is 888-565-1470. You can also find us on Facebook at AMP2 TV Productions. So we'd love to hear from you. We'd love for you to check in, and we look forward to taking your call. So Bahamas Strong is an organization that was founded right here, and we actually started the organization before the hurricane hit the Bahamian Islands, knowing that we could see disaster looming, feeling a sense of helplessness, and many of us are involved in the nonprofit world. So my name is Kirsten Stevens. I'm one of the co-founders. With us today is Greg Weiss, Danny Albertus, Sarita Gregory, also co-founders of the organization. So Greg, you're with Official Hurricane News and Information Center. Why don't you give us a little bit of background from your perspective on the organization, on the hurricane, on everything we've just experienced?
Well, just to give a little context and background to what we do and what we've been doing, we started about 10 years ago with a local meteorologist from one of our local networks. When Facebook first came around and the whole smartphone movement, all of a sudden information became much more accessible to people, and we decided that we were going to create a group. Steve is the actual meteorologist. Me as a little bit of a weather junkie, but pretty strong internet marketer for all the years of doing my day job. And we opted to say to ourselves, you know what, Facebook is pretty much more useful to get out information than just cat memes and jokes and what we all had for dinner. So we started this group. It didn't really catch on for the first year. We only had about 500 members or so. And then as the years progressed, we added an email alert system as a way to get information out before people had a chance to even go online or see what was happening on the Weather Channel. And it just blossomed to the point now where once we added the email alert list and on the other social media properties, we now cover every state from Maine to Texas, plus all the islands from Belize up to the Bahamas, with about close to 6 million people now in our database and system.
That's incredible.
Correct. And so basically what our job is without all the fluff, the hype, without all the craziness, is we let people know the progress of storms before they form, all the way to the point where we give access to the information about where we think they're most likely to land so people can prep. And in the beginning of the season, we put out a very thorough, comprehensive storm prep guide. It's the most comprehensive storm prep guide out there. It covers everything. So, we're all volunteers. We have 2 meteorologists on staff and myself, and we're just here to really help prepare everybody in the event of a catastrophic storm, unfortunately, like Dorian.
So Greg, just really quickly, you just mentioned that storm prep guide. We are still in hurricane season.
Yeah, we have 2 months left.
So, where is that storm prep guide, and what are your thoughts as far as the rest of the season?
Wow!
Just really quick before we dive into
the storm
other
prep
things.
guide is available on this site, and if anybody signs up through the email alert system, which can be found on our group page as well. As far as the rest of the season goes, the first half of the season was exceptionally quiet this year, if you remember, due to a couple of different things. First of all, we had a lot of Saharan dust. So the dust coming off the Sahara Desert actually travels across the ocean all the way, believe it or not, to the southern, southeastern United States. And it creates a very dry pocket of air that inhibits storm growth. So you can have low pressure systems that don't develop because they can't kind of get that fuel that they need. So what happened in the second week of August, it was that the Saharan air dissipated over the ocean. Things started heating up, and things had a chance to really kind of just fuel to the fire. There was no more wind shear in the upper atmosphere and conditions. So all of a sudden, we went from no storms to 5 named storms so quickly. And right now, we have 4 active systems in the tropics right now.
Okay, so we still have 4 active systems out there right now.
Unfortunately,
we've
got one. Yeah, one's getting a little bit close to the Bahamas. It's just a wave. It's not a storm yet.
Okay.
And then the one behind it is the one that we're kind of monitoring the closest, that has the highest chance of becoming a tropical storm. So
we can't let our guard down yet.
Never let your guard down.
And we need to get that storm prep list if we don't have it yet.
We'll get it out
and
there.
It's official Hurricane News and Information Center, right, Greg?
That is correct.
Thank you. So, Danny Albertus, co-founder of Bahamas Strong, why don't you tell us a little bit about your role in this and why you felt it was so important to form an organization in advance of a storm, even, and the devastation of a storm?
Yeah. So, shout out to Greg Weiss and his team and his Facebook group. Greg and I have been raising funds in the community probably for 14, 15 years. I got to say, starting with the alerts and the news on his Facebook page, keeping an eye on what was happening. I think he was one of the first ones to kind of say, look, this track is a little bit different than what others may be reporting, and the Bahamas are, in its path. And, it got me a little worried because I was involved in Harvey's relief effort in the Houston area. I was in Beaumont, Texas, 4 days before the storm actually hit. We had friends and clients really suffer some devastating damages there, and we got involved in the relief effort. And if you recall back, and Greg, sure Greg knows firsthand from what happened in Puerto Rico and the disaster there, that they're still dealing with, unfortunately. I look at pictures of is it Michael up in the Panhandle? There's still towns completely destroyed, and we're talking about U.S. property, right? You're talking about federal aid. We're talking about FEMA, where things should be fixed. And when I started thinking about our friends in the Bahamas being so close to us, what can we do? I think it was like Thursday or Friday, I figured, there's going to be a lot of money going out there. There's a lot of unknowns in the Bahamas, who do you trust, who do you don't trust? And I decided to reach out to the person that I consider, the local expert in the nonprofit space that happened to have great connections in the Bahamas. And luckily, we're really good friends. And that's you. And, I remember everyone's putting up shutters in my neighborhood and going crazy and buying food. And I'm like, you know what? I think we're going to be okay here. But those people aren't. Because even if we get hit, guess what? The West Coast wasn't going to get hit. It was going to curve up the coast, so tons of food and supplies coming from Naples or Tampa. We'd be okay.
Yep.
But worst case scenario, I remember calling you and saying, worst case scenario, Kirsten, what's going to happen?
That's right.
And you were like, it's not going to be good.
Yep.
And I recall back when, you started your agency, 15, 20 years ago, dealing with hurricanes in the Bahamas when you were living there. And that story really stuck with me. And that's kind of how it all started, and you're like, my brother just called me and we just talked to friends and family out there and they're worried.
Yeah.
And I know you have clients in the Bahamas that are nonprofits and you're like, they're starting to call me, and they're probably 2-3 days before we got hit. Remember
Exactly.
that?
Exactly.
And I said, great. So you're the expert, you're the consultant, I'm an entrepreneur, I know business. What do we do?
Yep.
And that's how it started, right? And so, unfortunately, we kind of saw this early. And so we got prepared, which is good, but it was horrible when that storm stalled and was sitting over it and, 2 miles an hour. What was it, Greg?
Well, actually, it went down.
At one point, didn't it go to zero?
It went down to zero.
Yeah,
It
went to
completely
zero.
stalled.
That's
and
crazy.
unfortunately, that's the new norm. There's a whole lot of talk in the meteorological scientific community about what's been happening the past 5-10 years with these storms. But we've really seen a whole lot of these storms just kind of slow down, sit off the coast, and churn. And what that does is that it takes, on one hand, it doesn't become as much of a wind event as it becomes a water event.
Right.
But the problem is that if you take low-lying areas, like especially in the Bahamas, they had over 30 inches of rain.
Right.
Okay, it was just mind-numbing to see how much rain that they had, and that's why you had 10-foot inflows of water over.
Plus the storm surge
and of course
and
the
the
storm
king tide.
surge. Well, so here, well, see, and that's everybody was like, what about these king tides, which are an event that happens twice a year when the moon is closest to the Earth. That can add 2 to 3, maybe sometimes 4 feet to a storm surge. So it's, the biggest issue that we had here in the States, we didn't have a whole lot of damage per se, like compared to the Bahamas, but we had an awful lot of storm surge, especially around the high tides. I mean, even here in Delray Beach and Boynton Beach, you saw the pictures of the Intracoastal breaching and people canoeing down the side streets.
That's right.
It looks cute on picture, but it's really dangerous and loss of life. So
Yeah.
That's why I put this storm.
And so here we are, right? It hit on the 1st.
10 days later, but for the ones that started us, before that, building websites, getting the legal papers in place, organizing, drumming up support, calling friends, family. It was a fun weekend.
And then, and the irony to me is no matter how much you prepare, no matter how you think in your mind you are ready,
Yeah, you're not.
You're not. And what we're hearing in the aftermath is painful, it's devastating, it's heartbreaking. And I think we all really feel a tremendous sense of compassion for what's happening in the Bahamian Islands.
And I have to add, I mean, Sarita and you spent and lived in the Bahamas for years, so that's homeland for you in many ways.
That's
that's painful. That's challenging.
That's
Where
right.
did the two of you live in the Bahamas?
So I lived in Nassau for 18 years.
I lived in Cat Key for a couple of years, managing a property there with my husband.
But going back and forth, right, all your life, basically, to the Abacos and
Since I was a child.
So we really do feel like we have deep ties, and we're all connected, right? We're all humans on this earth, and we're all connected. And
Absolutely.
And it really doesn't matter what country you're from. It's devastating. They need our help. They need our support, and we really, I think, for us too, even from the early days, the concern was, how do we keep this in the forefront, right? How do we keep people focused on the enormity of this catastrophe, even a week later, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, 3 months later? And look, we're seeing ripple effects because we now have impacts to our own communities here in South Florida, impacts to Nassau, a lot of evacuees that are being housed. They have needs. They need to go to school. They need to work. I mean, this is massive.
Yeah, to Danny's point, when we were doing Hurricane Irma relief 2 years ago in the Keys, the parallels are just striking. We went down to the Keys, I think 3 days with our first team, working with the Monroe County Sheriff's Department, just to help in clear debris. And that was my first time actually getting my hands dirty and seeing what the stages of a relief process are. And it was fascinating and heartbreaking at the same time. So, watching from what we're here, we all, you made a point that, a lot of the aid and a lot of the effort comes in those first couple of weeks. But I can tell you, I was in the Keys not that long ago. And here we are basically almost 2 years after Irma, and there's people still living in hotels and temporary housing. 2 years. So the rebuild process goes on.
That's in the United States.
That's in the United, correct.
And there are roads that get there.
Correct. So can you imagine what's ahead for the folks in the Bahamas? And that's why I'm so proud of all of you and what you guys have done, and that this is going to be a continuous effort going forward.
It has to be. It has to be. And I think, when you look at forming a nonprofit that's going to be focused on the long-term rebuild effort, it really helps to keep things in perspective. You're constantly reminded of what the bigger vision is and what the future needs to look like, or could look like, or should look like. And as much as supplies are needed and evacuations are still needed, and we have a lot of medical issues that are being dealt with over there, we can't forget that there is going to be a long road ahead, and they're going to need our support financially and otherwise, for a long time. So I think we bring the benefit of being in this industry, knowing the nonprofit world, being a resource to individuals, donors, philanthropists, foundations, nonprofits, other agencies, really being able to help guide them in the right direction, right? And be able to point them in the direction of resources that they can partner with, and also legitimate and credible nonprofits, because unfortunately we know that occasionally these things do pop up out of catastrophic events. We see scams and
That
frauds.
happens
and-
after Irma down here. I mean, I can't. There was a lot of GoFundMe campaigns where they were, unfortunately, started by people whose, let's just say, their intent was not to do what we're doing. And I'll be politically correct and just nice about that. So.
Yeah. So just a reminder, we're on Tell Us Your Biz. And if you want to call in, if you have questions, comments, thoughts about the hurricane, 888-565-1470. We'd love to hear from you. We're going to take a quick commercial in a minute. But again, we're talking about Bahamas Strong, nonprofit set up to help organizations convene and partner and collaborate in the wake of Hurricane Dorian. And we look forward to your calls. We're happy to chat with you. If you have concerns or questions about nonprofits or how you can volunteer or what you could be doing at this time, we hope to be able to guide you in the right direction. So tell us your biz, and we're going to go to commercial break.
The opinions expressed
and
on
we
the
look forward to chatting more.
Let's all welcome a new sponsor to the show. It's AMP2 TV, the first and only internet production company that's truly plugged in. When you're looking for a full-service internet TV radio production company, discover AMP2 TV, a full-service production company that can provide all streaming videos in studio or remotely. They offer web page development, and they use all the latest platforms to help make all your business selling points more powerful. They can do remotes or live radio streaming as well as tape productions for social media platforms and television. AMP2 TV can handle all of your television needs, including closed caption for a perfect on-air telecast. Choose from a variety of creative TV and radio packages or visit one of their many studios to get your creative juices flowing. Come and see why AMP2 TV works with many major companies, including Comcast, Bravo, and Fox 29, as well as individuals and businesses of all types and sizes. To see samples of their work or to find out more, visit their website at amp2.tv. That's A-M-P, the number 2.tv, or call them at 866-224-5422. Feel free to call for a quote or just a consult of how to put your business on a social media platform or radio platform, or just doing a show that is covered by all platforms. Call 866-224-5422 and make an appointment. That's 866-224-5422. You are listening to Tell Us Your Business, where our invited guests share all the knowledge of their business and how important it is what they do in our community. If you want to be part of the conversation, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and tell us what's on your mind. Now, back to Tell Us Your Business.
Thank you, and we're back on Tell Us Your Biz. We've got Bahamas Strong here today. We've got Greg Weiss from the official Hurricane News and Information Center, Danny Albertus, co-founder, Sarita Gregory, co-founder, Kirsten Stevens, that's me. And feel free to call in. We'd love to take some of your questions or comments, 888-565-1470 or AMP2 TV Productions on Facebook if you want to check us out. And we'll just get back to talking about Hurricane Dorian and the devastation in the Bahama Islands, the fact that Bahamas Strong was formed as and it is one of many agencies that are doing good work. I don't want to say that we're the only ones. We're not. But we were formed prior to the hurricane and sort of an urgent call to action, just seeing what we thought was going to be happening to those islands, and unfortunately has. So Danny, why don't you talk a little bit about needs and the sort of questions that we've been getting from people. I think that's what's the most powerful is everyone wants to help. We have this incredible feeling of just need to help, and how do we, it's almost like a grieving process for us, right? It's like I feel such pain for what I see, so what can I do to be involved? So what kind of direction can we give people, do you think, that'll really help?
I think let me start with something first, which I think is the beauty and the power of humanity. I've seen some amazing stories of people being so selfless, being so dedicated, feeling that pain, feeling that sorrow that you're talking about. and reaching out to us, right? We have a Facebook group, BahamaStrong.org, our website. I think we've had like 10,000 visits on the website, about 300 volunteer requests. Everyone's coming in saying, what do I do? What can I do? You know, the word we're getting a lot back is the number one need is really money. You know, we had partners out there that were spending $25,000, $30,000 a day in fuel for their boats, for their planes, for their helicopters.
So what were they doing? What kinds of things were they doing with the boats and the planes? Was this to deliver supplies or?
Well, the initial first couple of days was search and rescue, right? And so we were getting calls from NASA with friends and contacts that we had out there saying, look, I've got 10 planes. We're ready to go on the runway. You know, fuel's X amount of dollars, and we're doing these runs. And so when they realized some of the runways were not going to be available, they went to helicopters, right? And then out of Stewart, we had Black Hawk helicopters. Cerrito was up there out of Stewart Jet Center, seeing helicopters, you know, back and forth 3-4 times a day, filling up with supplies and heading out there.
One of the charters did 25 flights in one day.
Did it really?
Day
Incredible.
makers charters.
Wow.
And
That's
that takes
commitment.
fuel and fuel costs.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And
And,
that's
these
a
people,
different-
and the thing is, sorry to cut
Yeah.
you off, but these are all businesses, people that have businesses.
Right.
And they have donated already, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of in-kind services and fuel
Absolutely.
and equipment and so on. So at some point, you know, they
Plus,
also,
they stopped doing their business, right? So
Right,
they have
plus-
losses
that's
on
right.
that. You
Exactly.
yourself, you know, you've been
We're all
dedicating yourself
volunteering.
to volunteering for this. You know, no one's making a dollar on this.
That's right.
And that's the beautiful part. So I kind of want to highlight that because, you know, sometimes in divisive times, this community got really close, really together, super quick.
Yeah.
And that, I got to tell you, that's fueled me. You know, it's been 10 days nonstop, 11, 12 hours sometimes going at it. But I know, you know, we're part of a collective of 40, 50 organizations. We get daily emails, daily reminders, daily updates when a captain comes back, when a helicopter comes back. We have the latest intel and we share that with everybody. So seeing that and seeing how, you know, a disorganized group of misfits in a lot of way, you know, because it's I'm a
Speak for
pilot.
yourself.
I'm a helicopter. No, I'm saying like the people that were just, you know, getting supplies and they're like, I'm going to go on my boat and get out there and do
Okay.
it.
I'm a misfit.
You
It's all
know,
good.
but I'm so proud of that.
I know. They were
Right.
so determined. They're like, we don't care. They're going to turn us away. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't
We're
matter.
still
Coast Guard
going.
saying don't go. I
Yeah.
gotta go. There's people in
Yeah.
need. People are hungry.
That's incredible. That is the
Right?
human spirit wanting to help out. That is
Right.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then what we saw as a subsequent development, right, was the evacuation efforts.
Right.
So it was no longer only about delivering supplies. It became an urgent humanitarian
Right.
issue of let's get people out of there because days have gone by. And it's volume.
Yeah.
It's not that
Yeah.
no one's doing anything. It's sheer
a lot.
volume.
Yeah.
And the pockets in the islands that were isolated from each other and needed to have people access
I think
them.
the last count I saw this morning was 65,000 people homeless,
That's
which is just
incredible.
remarkable
Yeah,
to me.
that is a
How do you put that on a
staggering
boat,
number.
right? How do you put those on small boats to get into some of these smaller caves with debris in the field? You know, we got reports back, was it Sunday, 250 people rescued from one of our operations going out there multiple times during the day in speedboats to get people.
Yeah,
That's-
that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that goes to the phases of a recovery. I mean, obviously, your first couple of days are always going to be your search or rescue recovery. You know, obviously medical, medical.
Yeah.
You know, and the unfortunate part about the medical is, to what Danny was saying, is that you have pockets of people that are isolated. How do you get them to medical?
That's right.
Thank goodness we've had partners that were able to donate things like antibiotics over the the first couple of days of the event. I mean, it was just amazing, the outpouring of support, not just things about, because we all think about food, water, clothing, but there's so many more things that are needed and are
Right.
going to be needed going
And
forward.
are going to be needed.
You know, we've been speaking heavily over the past couple of days about, you know, the psychological component and the trauma effect.
Right.
You know, so we've been quietly assembling an amazing group of volunteers from here in South Florida that are trained in trauma psychology to go out and actually help with the folks down there. So
That's right.
there's a lot of
So
different
many-
needs that really cover a very wide spectrum.
Absolutely. Yep. So Sarita, you were really on the ground in the Stewart area. What are your thoughts as far as what you experienced and what kind of highlights can you talk about from
Well,
what
I
you
think
saw?
Stewart and the Treasure Coast, and now all of South Florida, we're just really behind all of this effort to help the Bahamas as much as we can. Operation 300 is a really big organization doing a lot of good in Stewart, as well as the Bahamas and Abaco Relief Funds and D-Day Response Group doing the medical evacuations, and now setting up a remote medical hospital facility on North Eleuthera to treat those people from the hit islands. And everyone wants to help. So we're just
That's right.
trying to direct them to the right places to help and get the most help to the Bahamas as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and I think, helping with those channels, right? So what is the best
Yeah.
way, or how, I mean, even verifying information, I think, was an important thing for us in early days. We were saying, well, we have this available. How do we know if they need it? Who can we call in NASA, or who can we call that we know might have an idea of whether it's needed and how to best implement it? So I think that's the other part, is kind of connecting the dots. And I mean, I saw you yesterday, even as recently as yesterday, with someone who needed to be medevaced out, trying to figure out what those channels are, who can we call, So it really is, when I talk about these partner agency, I mean, it's spectacular to see what has happened in our community and how people are coming together. And we are really, we are not logistics, and we are not necessarily
We're not boat
collection
captains.
sites. We're not boat captains. But if we can help bring the community
Yeah.
together and collect information, curate some of that information too, and sometimes check the veracity of what we're hearing before things get posted, just to make sure that, we're not giving misinformation. I think that's critical.
But I want to highlight something, which is I've heard so many reports of flights, just, captains going in and dropping containers or, pallets off or goods off in the airport and flying back. And it's really unorganized in many ways. And I think what was different about what we did, or what you started doing, was you had some amazing contacts in the Bahamas. Head Knowles Foundation, Rotary International, the Humane Society. Day one, we were in a WhatsApp group. We were exchanging information. And so when we knew we were getting supplies here, we had the Orlando operation. We had the Fort Lauderdale operation. We had the Miami operation. I think that piece of information that was exclusive to you because of your friends and connections and the fact that we could do it, that was so pivotal and so key, because it wasn't just everyone running around throwing stuff all over the place, but there was, what I thought for the first time, a coordinated effort in many ways. So kudos to you, right, for making those calls and having those connections.
Well, thank you, but I don't really even know that it's about that. Really, it's sort of, you look at all the things that you do in your life and you think, wow, now it's come full circle. How crazy is that, right? So who knew that this would all come in handy and we'd be tapping into some of these connections.
Unfortunately, right? Unfortunately.
But the other thing that I think is so important is when you have contact with people on the ground there and they're telling you exactly what they need,
Right.
you have just streamlined everything that's going to them and changed the entire dynamic of the help and the supplies that are getting there.
And that's the thing, because individual agencies work so much quicker than government. And I certainly don't want to knock the great people at NEMA and FEMA, but after Irma, one of the things that, from personal experience, was that the teams going down in the cars and the boats after Irma were able to rapidly deploy. It was incredibly how quick we were able to get aid to people, literally within hours. So when you don't have to go through a government entity or wait for a large international agency through
It
contacts like Danny was saying, it makes a world of difference.
It does.
It can be life or death, actually.
It does, absolutely.
So-
and of course, they are also convening their partners, right? So they know who to go to on the ground for medical needs or for, other emergency things that come up. So, because Head Knowles is wonderful, but they're also a collective of partner agencies. So they have all those resources at hand, which is fantastic. So let's think about people that might be listening and are thinking, well, how do I help then? Do they still need supplies? Do they need clothing? We get so many questions about clothing. What about food? What about water? What about, cases of bottled water? So what do you think are the needs at this point, based on the information that we've had, where people can really feel helpful and useful and sort of channel some of those supplies?
I think it's going to depend geographic, right? So we're hearing a lot of aid being sent to the outers, right? To Treasure Cay and the Marsh Harbor. That's more building supplies right now, right? Because everyone's hopefully left the area. I mean, it's pretty demolished. It's going to be a reconstruction effort, and so the barges that I know are going out with plywood and tools and generators, more for the long term.
So let me ask a silly question. If everyone's being evacuated, then who's there to do anything with the plywood and the equipment?
From what I've heard, so the military's still there. Unfortunately, it's still an active search and recovery. A team of Marines from the Netherlands arrived today to do a very detailed search, unfortunately, for bodies, or unfortunately who passed away in that. But the feedback that I get a lot is, although people may evacuate to Nassau or Eleuthera, they want to go back home as soon as possible.
Yeah.
You know, they don't care how bad it is. You know, no power for a year. Okay, that's cool. You know, like, we're gonna go rebuild. You know, we're Bahama Strong. That's how we got that name from, right? We're not gonna give up. You know,
right.
it may be cool somewhere else, but it's not home.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and so the supplies will be there, and the tools will be there, and the food and the water and the electricity to help them kind of get through it. So that's one aspect of
Yeah.
it, right? Two is, where are these long-term camps going to be in the meantime?
Yep.
Right? That's
Yep.
going to be
The
another issue.
evacuee
The
camps.
evacuee camps,
Yes.
right? We're hearing Eleuthera.
Yes,
you
North
know,
Eleuthera,
North Eleuthera.
Nassau, different parts of
Right.
Nassau.
And so I think for now, our focus has been shipping containers to Nassau, Ground Zero, the port over there. You know, our partners are on the ground, knowing how to distribute there. I think that's the best we can do right now, right? Is
Yeah.
they get the feedback. I mean, we know how many centers a week are there? 6 now? 6 or
Yeah,
7?
I think they were opening a 7th, right?
Right.
We knew up until yesterday, there were 6 centers that were housing the evacuees.
Right.
That means feeding them, clothing them, taking care of, minor medical needs,
Right.
children's needs. I mean, that's huge.
And that depends, right? So shout out to, is it Royal Caribbean? 20,000 meals a day they're going to be doing out there.
Incredible.
Chef Jose Andres and the
Yeah.
amazing work that he's doing.
Yeah.
Global empowerment. I mean, there's some really good organizations out there handling that.
And you know what I loved? I saw this today, and we'll go to a quick commercial break in a minute. But the one thing that I saw today that really, really was astounding to me is that, for example, the World Kitchen, Jose Andres,
World Caring Kitchen, yeah.
He has partnered with Hands for Hunger, which is a Bahamian
Oh, is it?
nonprofit that provides food
Right.
For those who are food insecure. To me, that's perfect,
Yeah.
right? That's a magical combination when you've got someone on the ground who knows the lay of the land, you've got someone coming in who has the resources, the food, the
Right.
supplies, it's fantastic.
You know what?
So-
And shout out to them, because I want to say Saturday or Sunday, they were already out there in
They were
Nassau.
already out
right?
there.
When you and I started looking
Prepping.
at it, and we were like, I wonder
Yep.
where Jose is. We looked online and on Twitter, and
And there he
Jose
was.
was already
Awesome.
There
getting
he
ready,
was.
because they knew it, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
congrats
Yeah.
to them for being ahead of.
Yeah, that's right.
Ahead of
prepping.
it, so.
Yep. All right, so we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'd love to hear from you if you want to call in, 888-565-1470. And we're on Tell Us Your Biz. This is Bahama Strong. We're talking about Hurricane Dorian and the devastation in the Bahamian Islands.
If a tree falls in the woods and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? Have you ever felt that your voice goes unheard? And you think that you can make a difference if only someone would just listen? It's time for women in business to have a place to step into your power, a platform to embrace your hopes, dreams, and your visions, a voice to heal and restore. Your voice can make a difference. We have the platform to share your story and let your voice be heard. Be kind to yourself. Give yourself the chance to be heard and shine bright. Contact New Dawn Media by texting CAFE to 80800. That's CAFE to 80800.
You are listening to Tell Us Your Business, where our invited guests share all the knowledge of their business and how important it is what they do in our community. If you want to be part of the conversation, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and tell us what's on your mind. Now, back to Tell Us Your Business.
Great, we're back with Tell Us Your Biz. This is Bahama Strong. We are the founding team of Bahama Strong, and we came together prior to Hurricane Dorian hitting the Bahamian Islands, hoping that we could start raising some awareness. And look at everybody on their phone. That's amazing. Wow, it's that world, isn't it? But
Wait, can people
so
see this?
I think we're texting people to call in because
yeah.
we really want to answer some questions. If anyone has any questions, we'd love to hear from you, 888-565-1470. So we're talking about some of the needs. We're talking about the partners and the agencies on the ground. If you would love to call in, if you'd like to hear more, if you have questions about some of the things that have been going on, or maybe what the outlook is at the moment, we'll give you as much information as we're privy to. But we would love to hear from you. So let's continue the conversation, talk a little bit. We were talking about needs, supplies, location, evacuees. So we know that we have several thousand evacuees already in Nassau at a few different centers. So what does life look like for them?
Well, I have been in contact with Ranfurly Homes, the children's shelter in Nassau, and they just need new clothing. So they are not accepting all of your donations of used clothing, but they are looking for new clothing for these kids that have been relocated from the Abacos, from Freeport, to their children's shelter. And so there's an organization actually started by a young boy in Jupiter called Bahamas. What is it?
Backpacks for Bahamas.
For the
An
Bahamas.
11-year-old.
An
How awesome is that?
11-year-old. And they have thousands of followers now. And so we are getting behind that also and connecting them with Lend a Hand Bahamas and the Ranfurly Homes and hopefully getting some backpacks over to them.
Oh my gosh, that's great. Yeah, and I just think, when you have displaced families, and now let's think also context, right? So these are evacuees that were able to get out. Some of them don't know where their relatives are. There was a young boy yesterday. We heard that his father, I think, was on vacation. His sister was in the States. He didn't have any other family members besides cousins and aunts and uncles, and some of them had disappeared. He didn't know where they were. So we're talking about evacuees that these are not necessarily complete families and complete, communities. There are people missing. There are people who've passed away, unfortunately. I mean, it's very, very stressful. It's trying times for them, and I think we really have to keep in mind that there's so much more involved in this. It's not just about having a bed and a hot meal. It's about the comfort, the security that they get after going through such a terribly, terribly traumatic experience. So, and then we know that there are people coming to the States. So what kinds of things are they facing, right?
Yeah, I think
I've heard there's a group of people being housed in Jupiter right now, actually, in a hotel for the time being, just until they can
Harborside.
find Yes, at Harborside.
I think we had 1,100 come in on
Saturday.
Saturday.
Saturday, 1,100 came in.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, the best we can do is really be a welcoming force for them. I think we've got someone on the line. We've got Barry Rassin with us, calling in from Nassau, Bahamas. He is the past president of Rotary International. Do we have you on the line, Barry?
Yes, you do. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you so much. It's Kirsten Stevens, Greg Weiss, Danny Albertus, Sarita Gregory, and happy to hear your voice, Barry. How are you doing? How are you holding up, and what's going on in Nassau?
I'm doing fine. Nassau, we had some flooding from the hurricane, but really nothing compared to all of our northern islands. The activities here, everybody is stepping up to gather as much supplies and give emotional support. We've already brought in, I believe, about 4,500 evacuees from Abaco, some from Freeport, and we're trying to find homes. Most of our shelters are full, so I've been meeting with some tent people trying to put up a tent city, so at least we have a place for the rest. But from what I understand, we're going to bring in about 10,000 altogether to evacuate from Abaco.
Wow, that's a staggering number. And so are there any updates for us in terms of, we get a lot of questions about supply needs, about how this has evolved from delivering water to the Abacos to now knowing we have these evacuees in different parts of Nassau that may be needing help. Can you shed any light on that for us, Barry?
Yes, so many people are putting supplies together, and in Freeport on Monday, a couple of days ago, we got a 23 tons of supplies for them.
Wow.
We've got plane loads on a regular basis. We've got boats. We've got containers still in Florida, haven't gotten over here yet. So Rotary, as an organization, we're talking more about this to finalize tomorrow, but we're thinking we need to move into the long-range recovery program and let others deal with supplies. Because I believe there's a possibility here we're going to have too much in the way of supplies. We need them, but there's going to come a point with everything that's on its way that we're going to have too much here.
Right.
I want to make sure that doesn't happen. I want us to get into the fundraising. We know every community in the Northern Islands are going to have to be rebuilt from scratch. And we want to be able to support the business so that we can get the economies back. Then people will go back because they have a job and they can start getting their house back in order.
Yeah, and so what happens, I think Sarita has a question about the storage of supplies. Are there adequate places to store supplies there?
Yes, actually, we're very fortunate with that. A lot of it has come through Nassau, and we have a number of places where the company basically opened up their warehouse to put whatever we need to inside. New Providence Community Church is a big one that Rotary is using, and we turn around the supplies so quickly that although we get a couple of containers a day to go in, then we get them out to those who need them as well. So a lot of volunteers,
That is great.
of volunteers.
Happy to hear
working
that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Sure, we move things around. So yeah, that's not a problem. In Freeport, the supplies I'm aware of, I mean, I know probably other organizations are doing it, but that 23 tons went into Bradford Marine, and the guy who manages that, Mike Stafford, is a Rotarian, and he has access to warehouses or a place he can keep the things so that they stay good, and they've begun that distribution process. The idea is to store it as short a time as possible and get it to those who need it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so tell us then also, when people are saying, how can we help? You know, we still feel this urge to help the Bahamian Islands and the Bahamian people. What would you say to them? How can people best help the Bahamian people at this point?
Honestly, at this point in time, find one of our funds and start providing funding so that we have long-term ability to rebuild the communities. That, to me, is the best way that we can get people to get their hope back. Because right now, they're devastated. They've lost their home, lost everything they have. They're living in a shelter, and they've got nothing.
Yeah.
And for them to get any hope and something for the future, they need to know that we're rebuilding their community. So whatever they could do to provide some funding. We have a Bahamas fund that Rotary uses in U.S. dollars and in pounds so that people can provide it in whatever currency they need to.
How can they find that, Barry? How can they find that fund?
There's a disaster fund on the Rotary website, rotary.org, or on the Rotary District 7020 website. There's the Bahamas Fund.
Rotary District 7020.
Correct.
Okay, excellent. Okay. And then, Barry, would you mind, one other thing, and I don't want to keep you, I'm sure you have a lot you need to get back to, but, you know, there is occasionally we sort of hear or people are talking about, there's this sense that there's not enough help, there isn't enough leadership there in terms of resources or different entities coming in. Would you mind just sharing with us some of the entities that you know are on the ground that are helping to coordinate all of these efforts so that we can reassure people that there is order and there's distribution and there's, that people are being taken care of?
Sure. You know how people like to talk and talk up the negative, unfortunately. And there's been frustration because although we have a disaster plan for the country, nobody could have planned for the destruction that we had on this hurricane. So it went beyond what anybody's plan was. So for the government, a lot of the criticism goes to the government for not moving quicker, getting things done faster. They're working as they can. Some of the agencies I know of, Jamaica has sent us a lot of police so we can increase security. Trinidad has sent us 120 police, so we have improved security. Because Abaco being so devastated, we want to make sure we get enough security up there so the few people who do stay at least are safe. There's an organization here called Head Knowles that is doing a great job with getting and distributing supplies. Obviously, Rotary is a part of the supply, and we got 6 clubs in this island, 5 in Freeport, 1 in Abaco, and all the Rotarians are up and working. Shelter Box is already here from Great Britain to see what kind of tenting we need so they can provide that. Disaster Aid is here from the United States and Canada so they can see what we need. The United Nations has a team here to see what they can do to help us. USAID is here to help us. There's a lot of organizations that are here. The U.S. Coast Guard is here. They have done a fantastic job of bringing in some helicopters to move people off of Abaco and bring them into Nassau. There's a frigate here from the British Navy. The whole world has stepped up to do whatever they can to help us.
That is wonderful.
Very gratifying.
Wonderful to hear. Very reassuring on our end to hear that, because we We worry that there aren't enough resources on the ground.
Hey Barry, it's Danny. First off, wanted to thank you. I've heard nothing but amazing things about what the Rotaries are doing, not just in the Bahamas, but here as well. I know the Weston location has raised tons of supplies, and I know Bradford Marine has been great about that. So congrats for helping us, being a trusted partner out there. We really, really appreciate that.
No, happy to. I mean, we're just people who are stepping up to help those people who are desperately in need right now.
I want to fill you in. Kirsten and I were on a really interesting phone call this morning with the Center for Disaster Philanthropy. So my background is with foundations and individual philanthropists and donors. And, we talk a lot about the first responders, right? I think every organization you talked about right now is going in there providing first aid. I don't think any of those are going to provide long-term aid. And we talk a lot in our space about last responders, right? So when the first responders leave and they search and rescue is over and the heroes are, what they are, heroes, but who's going to do the rebuilding, right? Who's going to be there for the long term? And what I heard this morning was a little sad. There was a conversation over how much corporate support, at least U.S. corporations, have provided. And the number was, I believe, as of today, $14.1 million was the estimate arrived. And it sounds like a lot, but unfortunately, at the same point with Hurricane Harvey, that number was close to $50 million. So,
Now, this is purely from the private sector.
Private sector corporations. This is just corporate dollars, the big companies that have already, announced what they're doing, organizations that count these dollars and track these things were giving us the information. And I think that was the biggest concern today was, look, this is a huge undertaking. Huge.
I'm sure we're going to need $1 billion to get this sorted out.
You see?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
To get people back in business.
Easily.
So yes, we need incredible support.
Yep.
But it doesn't come in overnight. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
We have fundraisers going on in England. We have fundraisers going on in 5 states that I'm aware of in the U.S. I've got a fundraiser tomorrow night at Telethon in British Virgin Islands. So there's a lot of fundraising going on right now.
Yeah.
Excellent. And so just to repeat that, it's Rotary.org, Rotary District 7020. We're on the phone with Barry Rassin, past president of Rotary International, so the global Rotary body.
Did I read that right? 1.2 million members, Barry?
1.2 million members in Rotary clubs and 300,000 in Rotaract clubs.
And you were the president of that.
5 million people.
You're an underachiever, Barry. What can we say? No, I'm just kidding. Barry, thank you so much. Is there anything else, any last words you want to share with us? It's fascinating to hear directly from you. Is there anything else you want to share with us?
I just want to ask all of your audience just to think about, okay, you may never have stepped up before because, others were doing it, but this devastation is going to need every citizen, everybody with a heart to do something to help us if we're ever going to get those communities back on their feet. So, and I deeply thank the United States. The citizens that I'm hearing from Abaco especially, their comment is, thank the United States for all they've done to help us.
Wow.
Wow.
Gives me goosebumps.
Yeah, that gives us goosebumps. Thank you, Barry. Well, best of luck with everything, and I'll be seeing you soon. Hopefully, we'll be speaking to you very soon again, and we wish the Bahamians all of our love and compassion and thoughts, and we're going to continue raising money over here and keep it in the forefront. That's our goal.
Thanks,
Barry.
fabulous. Thank you so much for your help.
Thank you. Wow, that's powerful. Okay, and we have another caller. We have Jenna on the line. We are Bahamas Strong, talking about the devastation of Hurricane Dorian in the Bahamian Islands. Jenna, are you there?
Yes.
Thank you so much for calling. Where are you calling from,
You're
Jenna?
welcome. Stuart, Florida.
All right, Stuart. Stuart is showing up in a big way. Wow,
Shout
we
out to
love
Stuart.
Stuart. You're doing such great work for the Bahamians.
Oh, yes. We're trying, doing as much as we can.
So, what can we do for you, Jenna? Do you have some thoughts or questions? Or are you just sharing information with us?
I'm just calling with a couple of questions. I know some people associated with the Bahamas Strong, and I just think what they're doing is great, and I'm just giving them little encouragement and keep doing what they're doing because it's awesome, and they need our help over there for sure.
Yeah, they do. Were you able to hear some of that conversation from Barry Rassin just now about the long-term needs?
No, I missed it.
So, we were asking him how we can help. First of all, the Bahamian people are so grateful to all of the work being done here in the United States and all over the world, frankly. But as their closest point of contact, they're grateful to us, but also the fact that they want to keep this very present in people's mind in the long term. So I think
Right.
that's where we all as a community and steward all of these communities can really stay engaged and be involved. Are you aware
Yes.
of fundraising efforts that are happening continuously or on the ground, or what have you seen?
Yes, just everywhere. Everywhere I go, there's efforts for fundraising. You know, I went to the gym this morning, and they're collecting supplies. You know, everywhere I look, they're collecting supplies.
Stuart
I
has
think
a
it's
really
great.
large presence in the Bahamas relief effort, so we're really proud of that.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, and it goes back to we said earlier. It's what 50 miles, 60 miles from Stewart to some of the early, closest.
I know
West
that's what
End.
we forget,
Yeah,
right?
it's
our
Palm Beach to
closest
Miami
neighbor.
sometimes,
away.
right?
Yeah. Incredible.
Yeah.
And the fact
Yeah,
that we were
just
spared is just, I mean, yeah,
Oh, I know.
it's
I just watched
miraculous.
a video of Dorian earlier, and I just watched the whole video of how Dorian literally stopped a few miles from us and just went up north. And I'm like, wow, just seeing that is really like a reality check. How lucky we got.
I think that's why all of Florida is mobilized so quickly, because it could have been us, and we already had the supplies ready.
That's exactly
So we
right.
said, okay, we'll share them with our closest neighbors, because
That's right.
they took the hit for us, honestly.
I think I have to agree with you. I think a lot of it is relief. We feel so grateful, so fortunate. So, yeah, I completely. Well, Jenna, thank you so much for representing
you're
the Stewart
welcome.
community and all of
Yeah,
your
we
hard
love the
work.
Bahamas, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Jenna,
Thank
you're
you.
Bahama strong.
You are Bahamas
Yep.
strong.
That's for sure. We love it. We can't wait to go back.
Oh, yeah,
Thank you
might
for
be a little
calling.
bit.
What's that?
It might be a little bit before we can all get over there, but yeah, we
Right.
got to keep them in our thoughts in the meantime. All right, Jenna,
Great.
thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Take care.
Actually, to pick up where we left off about that, is we actually need to visit the Bahamas. They need us
Yeah.
in other
Yes,
islands.
there are parts of that's exactly right.
to support their tourism. So we need to go to the other islands that were not hit. I mean, for Freeport, Grand Bahama, the Abacos are out of commission for at least a few years, but the Exumas,
Atlantis is open.
Nassau,
Paradise Island is open, right?
and South,
Yeah.
you know, Eleuthera.
Eleuthera,
So all
yeah.
of those islands need
Yep.
need to
You
be
know, and
visited.
that's absolutely crucial. One of the reasons why the Keys were able to recover relatively quickly from such a devastating storm was because we stepped up and we did our staycations. We went from Delray,
Right.
from Stewart, from Naples. And we spent long weekends to the hotels that were there. And you know what? We boosted that economy.
That's right.
We need to do the same thing
We
for
need
the
to
Bahamas.
do the same thing. Yeah. And if you look, I know that a lot of people have posted on Facebook the map, right? So you can
Right.
see the northern part of the Bahamas. The rest of the Bahamas is perfectly fine, open for business,
Right.
welcoming tourists.
I heard today on the call 700 islands.
Yes, it's 700 islands.
700
I did not
islands.
It
know
is
that.
700
I didn't know
islands.
there were 700
Yes.
islands.
700 islands. Is that
Yes,
amazing?
I know.
Our radio show has
It's
become
better in the
educational.
Bahamas.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
right. We're educating everybody.
I like that.
So, yeah, I think that's the thing, too, to remember is they need our support in so many different ways. That economy needs to be strong. You know, they now have people that are going to need jobs
Yeah.
in Nassau as well. So many different impacts. Yeah, amazing.
And that's part of the long-term phase that we were talking about. Your point, the last responder.
The last responders.
That's right. Yeah, the last responders. So I think, you know, from us over here in the States, we continue to keep them in our thoughts and work hard, but there are some long-term goals, and I do want to say that on behalf of Bahamas Strong, if anyone has any concerns, any thoughts about nonprofits that you are wondering about, or if you're not sure if you should support, we welcome your calls because my company, which is the Canico Agency, this is something that we do. And so we're volunteering our time and our energy to help you vet nonprofits. I promise not to steer you in one direction or the other, although go bahamastrong.org. But if you want us to help you vet a nonprofit, make sure that they're legitimate, that they've been filing their 990s, that they're registered with the IRS. Please don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach out to support@bahamastrong.org. And we'll be happy to help you figure out if that nonprofit or that charitable entity is registered in the United States for a tax-deductible gift. So feel free to use this as a resource. We will be happy to provide you any information. In fact, I pointed a couple of people in the right direction in the first couple days. So, and then, of course, in terms of donations, we'd love it if you could donate to Bahamas Strong. You can donate via text. If you text Dorian to 21,000, Doesn't get any easier than that. Dorian to 21,000. And for international donors that may want to donate through WhatsApp, it's 908-443-1665. Again, you're texting Dorian. And of course, you can donate through bahamastrong.org. And if you have any calls, if there's anything that you'd like to ask us, our number is 561-208-6468. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions, or support at bahamastrong.org. And then Greg had another comment.
Oh, no, I would just say repeat the phone numbers for people that may not have caught it, to contact you guys.
Okay. So again, number for us at Bahama Strong, 561-208-6468, bahamastrong.org. And then, of course, if you wanted to text to donate, Dorian to 21,000. And our website is bahamastrong.org. We also have a very active Facebook page. So last couple thoughts. What thoughts do we have about what we experienced besides just the shock, horror, pain of what we've seen, and then this incredible need and urgency we have to help others?
I think with Bahama Strong, I think I said earlier that I think our strength is in the connections that we have already, and the connections that we're making with the organizations that want to help, the people who want to help, and the people who need us. So I think that is we are connecting a need with someone who's ready to fill that need.
Agreed. Yep. And that's a critical role.
For me, it's going to be top of mind, right? I think a lot of people have forgotten about Puerto Rico in some ways, and maybe we're lucky because it's only 50 miles away. And we're lucky because we're having Bahamians in our community, and we're going to hear the stories a lot more. And so to me, it's going to be, we heard it from day one. I think it was Sarita. It's not a sprint. We were all sprinting to get supplies. And then Sarita was like, this is a marathon? And it's like an ultra marathon, like a really, really, really long marathon, right?
Like an Ironman.
And so
longest, yes.
let's pace ourselves on this because this is a huge relief effort. And that's where, Bahama Strong came up, and we're like, all right, what's the long-term plan here?
The focus changes every day.
Completely.
I feel like, too.
It still is. Yes.
It
There are a lot of
changes every
moving
day.
parts, and it's changing every day. That's so true. Yeah.
You heard Barry say it, right? We're shifting now from supplies and rescue to long-term planning.
That's right.
Great.
Yeah. Incredible.
So.
And Greg, our outlook,
Our meteorologist.
our meteorologist, in 30 seconds or less, tell us what the outlook is.
Just everybody be prepared. That's all. Just just do your standard prep. We're so happy to be partnering with you guys, utilizing our base to help us. And again, to echo Danny and what everybody else has said, it's just incredible the connectivity and the outpouring of support from all corners of us. It's just fabulous.
I agree. And the coming together of community, I think that's our big takeaway. So again, Bahama Strong, if you want to reach out to it, it's bahamastrong.org. We thank Rotary International, rotary.org, Rotary District 7020. And feel free to reach out if you have any questions, support at bahamastrong.org. Or you can reach us at 561-208-6468. Thank you all for listening. And thank you, Florida and the United States and the world, for supporting the Bahamas. They need it.
This has been Tell Us Your Business, where a special guest comes on every week and tells us what they do. All shows can be seen on amp2.tv, and if you wish to be a guest, call 866-224-5422 and tell us about your business. That's 866-224-5422. This has been an amp2.tv production.